You're listening to the Basketball Lab podcast with your hosts Mark Shannon, Mark Clark, and Marco Corona. They'll discuss all the top news and stories from around the basketball world while giving their opinion and insight. Now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to the Basketball Lab podcast. I'm your host, Mark Shannon, and once again, I'm joined remotely, as always, respective of those government guidelines, 6 feet apart. You got to stay that 6 feet apart. By my co-host, Marco Corona. Our boy Mark Clark had to take a little bit of time off. Obviously, it's a lot dealing with a newborn baby, so he had to take a couple weeks off. Shout out to him. He'll be back soon. He'll be back as soon as he can. But
baby load management. It's all good.
Exactly, baby load management. But before we start talking about any sort of basketball talk or any NCAA talk, obviously, everybody heard the news. Everybody's seen the news in Atlanta, right, in Georgia, with the massage parlor and the shootings that happened down there, right? But we've talked about it before in terms of, Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. But now it's just, people are taking their hate onto Asian Americans or Asian people in general. Right. And it's kind of ridiculous. The hate needs to stop in terms of any culture. The hate needs to stop. Like, we're all people. And I think we need to, we stand with our people in terms of, we stand with every culture, whether it's Asian, it's Black, it's any color. We stand behind them. You know what I mean? So, and it's ridiculous that you turn on the news, CNN, or in Canada here, CP24 or whatever it is, and you have to hear about this crap. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand what it is for. And I get a lot of it has to do with the vitriol that was spewed at the beginning of the pandemic, but it doesn't excuse anything. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter to me. That shouldn't matter
to anybody.
Right? It shouldn't matter to anybody that you're going after one race of people. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, no, man, it's kind of weird, right? Because again, we are here to talk basketball and to talk hoops and NCAA and all that stuff. And you turn on your TV or your radio, whatever you're doing, and then you hear of this tragedy. And yeah, our hearts go out to everybody who's lost their lives, the Asian community as well that's suffering. And this has been going on for years. Let's not kid ourselves, right? And we've just gone through an entire year of social injustice and protests and Black Lives Matter, and nothing takes a backseat to another thing, right? Everything is in the forefront. Everything is unfortunately on the table, but I think, hopefully we can get a lot of the stuff off the table, but it doesn't seem that way, right? It's just when we think, you've made a positive turn, this happens, and it's disgusting. It's awful. It's scary. It's sad. And it shouldn't happen, and we need to stop. And the hate needs to stop, man. That's what it is.
And we need to take a collective look at ourselves and realize that, for this world and society to succeed, everybody's got to be able to live with each other and work with each other and do all that stuff. You know what I mean? If you're hating one color or one race or one religion or one sexual orientation, you're not living your life. You know what I mean? You're not living your life. You're living your life sheltered, and you're living your life as an ignorant soul. You know what I mean? You got to focus on life in general and not focus on just one thing. But like you said, we stand with Asian people and what they're going through, the Asian community and what they're going through. You saw the thing with Jeremy Lin in the G League, and right? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just at this point in time, it needs to stop. It just needs to stop.
Yeah, and let's give credit. And I know this is a sports podcast, so we don't want to diverse too much or digress too much, but this is important to discuss. This is beyond basketball, right? Yeah. But to tie it in all together, let's give a little bit of credit to the NBA community as well. A lot of players have used their platform to speak up and speak out about this horrible thing that has happened. And again, in all sports, and anybody who has a platform should be speaking out and helping. And Jeremy Lin, we got to not know him, but we saw a lot of him, with the Raptors run, with the championship run, and say what you want about, the player or whatever the case is, stats, this and that. This is beyond that. And, this is time to just support and be strong for it, because we all have friends and you know, and family that we know, and there's an association with the Asian community everywhere you go. And listen, again, at the end of the day, we're all people, man. Forget color, forget race, and we got to stand together, man. And
Yeah.
this has to stop. This is no way to bring up your kids, your family, and all that stuff. This has to stop.
Yep. No, absolutely. And you know, I think, like you said, we don't want to diverge and we don't want to go too far into this and take a whole topic on it, but we're a basketball podcast. But like you said, it needs to be said. It's important, and that stuff needs to be said, and stuff needs to be done about it. But
For sure.
moving on into, you know, obviously this is the whole premise of this podcast.
Lighten the mood, right?
Right.
Let's get your mind off the negative stuff, right?
Exactly. Lighten the mood. There's a lot of things going wrong in this world that but now we got, you know, tomorrow. Well, technically it started today, you know, with the play-in games. But
Yes.
March Madness starts tomorrow.
Oh, we've been waiting a year.
Right?
We've been waiting a year. We got robbed a year.
Oh, you've been waiting what? 2 years now.
Actually, 2 years, technically, right?
2
Since
years,
the end.
right?
Yeah, since the end of the previous one. That's right.
Exactly. We haven't seen one since 2019, right? So it's I don't know. I'm pumped. I can't wait for the actual, like, the real games to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what? 12:35. I think the first game's off. It's going to be an exciting tournament. I think. I don't know about you, but in terms of my opinion of it, I think it's one of the most wide open tournaments we've had in recent years. I think there's a lot of teams in a lot of these different regions or brackets, part of the bracket, that can take the national championship. I think there's a lot of really good teams, a lot of talented teams.
Right. And I think similar to the NBA bubble, I think this is really unpredictable, right? And yes, you know, you have your top seeds, right? Like in your Gonzagas and your Baylors and the Fighting Illini. And we'll get into, you know, who is what and why they may or may not advance. But I think there's literally on any given day, I can see upsets galore. And actually, you know what? Maybe it's not even about upsets, because this is such a different dynamic this year, right? Lower crowd. I think I just heard today there's 22% capacity being allowed, right? So again, there's going to be some energy, but it's not the same, right? So do teams that play a little bit under the radar sort of, you know, rise to the occasion, similar to what I said was going to happen with the NBA bubble? Or is it complete opposite? You take the pressure off those higher seats because you don't have that crowd behind you, and you just play a little bit more loosey-goosey. I think there's going to be some wild stuff happening, man. You may want to print these brackets like 3 or 4 times if anybody who participates in that, because I think there's going to be a lot of editing.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of bracket busters, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and
bring your
I've
lighter up to burn your bracket. I'm ready. Because I have a feeling mine's going to be a disaster.
Like I said before, and I think I said this on a couple weeks ago or last week, I think NCAA basketball, there's become a parity in basketball.
Yes.
Especially in NCAA basketball. It doesn't, like, a lot of the top teams now are still, obviously, there's still top teams, are still good universities, produce some of the best basketball players the NBA has seen. But a lot of these smaller teams, like the Creightons and those kind of teams, you know what I mean? Like Ohio, Oregon, all those, Oregon State, like there's a lot of solid teams out there that can prove to be your Cinderella run. But it wouldn't be such a Cinderella run in a sense because of the fact that, like you said, there's so, and I just said, there's so much parity. So in today's NCAA basketball that, you know, making a Cinderella run by a team that's sitting in 12th or ranked 12th, I should say, isn't such a big deal anymore.
It's
right?
It's a fake-erella, not Cinderella.
Exactly.
Right. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be wild, man. And one thing I think that makes it so unique this year as well, and I don't want to get into too much of the pandemic because we're sick and tired of talking about that, but that is a factor. Like during the season, a lot of teams, you know, didn't play the same amount of games, or guys had taken, you know, time off because of protocol and this and that. So it was all over the place. You had teams that were inconsistent all over the place. Obviously, you have the top dog Zaga, right? Is it finally? Do you think this is it this year, or are we talking about another disappointing ending?
I don't know. I mean, I We'll get to that. We'll
Yes.
get that. I have them making a deep run, but I mean, we'll have that. We'll have that discussion.
Don't reveal that yet. I just want your
Yeah.
thoughts on Gonzaga, because
But it's weird because they've always done this, and we get
Always.
it. Like their conference, they play in a little bit of a weaker conference, so to speak.
Yep.
Right. They don't play a lot of out of conference games that are against top 25 or strong opponents, and they've gone season after season where they go undefeated or close to undefeated. They're a top 10 team in the AP polls, but when it comes to the tournament, they fold. They fold like a tent. You know what I mean? And they don't make it. They don't make long runs. They get knocked out in the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, or second round, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But I think there's a big difference with this team. There's a lot of talent on this team.
A lot stacked.
Right? You got Corey Kispert, you got Jalen Suggs, you got Drew Tim. There's a ton of talent on this team, including the Canadian. Right? We'll get to him a little bit later too as well, Andrew Nembhard. But there's a lot of talent on that team. So I think they have what it takes to make a deep run in this tournament this year. And I think they also lucked out in terms of the side of the bracket that they're on. That they're on a little bit of a weaker sort of side of a bracket, I would say, than some of the other top number one seeds.
Yeah, I mean, you should, if you are following this team, you should minimum, at the absolute worst, put them in the Elite 8.
Yeah.
Anything prior to that is a complete disaster.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But we'll get to where they end up in a bit, I'm sure. And you talked about the two guys, Kispert and Suggs. You're talking about two of the top 10 players in the country on the same team, right? And our Canadian boy, right? Nate Hardman, we'll talk about that in 1 second. So this team is loaded with talent. There's no doubt about it. But to your point, we've seen this before where they kind of remind me of the Dutch team in soccer, right? Back in the days where they're stacked. They have all these players. Everybody always picks them. Okay, this is the year. This is the year. And then they get to a certain stage and it's like, laid a big egg. But a lot of people have a lot of writing on Zaga, man. I tell you that right now, based on what I saw.
Yeah, no, I mean, every bracket I've seen.
I may or may not. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Right. Even every bracket I've seen, including Matt James, the Bachelor, he even put one on there. I saw March Madness post his bracket on March Madness. I was like, why?
Wait. Who?
Yeah. Matt James, he was a Bachelor this season.
Oh, was that the dude with the girl that sort of flaked out?
Huh? No.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, The Bachelor, right?
I know the show. I don't watch it.
Yeah, but okay. So the guy's name, the Bachelor this year, was Matt James.
Right.
Right.
But didn't he break up with his girlfriend or something?
Yeah, he did because she was 2018. She took pictures at a antebellum plantation party, right? Plantation party. Yeah.
Girl.
Right. And it came to light after the fact, but so they put his bracket up and I was like, I don't understand why of all people you have Andy Katz, you have a bunch of like CBS guys and bracket guys that do it. You have Barack Obama and the next guy you have is Matt James, the Bachelor. Well,
it's a CBS show, right?
Yeah, but still, like,
there you go.
Of all people, him.
Are we actually having this conversation?
Yeah,
okay, let's know.
But anyways, he had Gonzaga there too. You know what I mean? I think number 44, Barack Obama had Gonzaga in the Final Four. A lot of these players, a lot of people, a lot of projections have Gonzaga making it to the Final Four. But like you said, I think worst case scenario, they get knocked out in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, obviously they're national champions. You know what I mean? I think for them, I think it's national championship or bust, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
Right? They went undefeated. They're looking to be the first team to go undefeated in a long time. So, you know what I mean? So I think it's championship or bust for them.
These kids, man, that's exciting, right? Like every day, every game. And this is what I say to people every year when they're casual. And I don't say the casual word as an insult, but there's some people that sort of go in and out of the NCAA season until March Madness. Man, just buckle up. It's going to be wild. I love it because every game, there is no game 7. There is no game 3. There is no best of 5. This is it. Win or go home every single night. And these guys are playing 100 miles an hour, man. Sometimes it gets sloppy, but that's fine. That's what makes it so much fun, right? It's not as structured as the NBA per se, right? But these guys are playing. A lot of these kids are playing for their careers. in the next level in the NBA. So that's what makes it so unpredictable. And there's always somebody, and we'll talk about maybe the old 12 versus 5 thing that pops up every year. But there's always something that just surprises you. You go, damn, I didn't know that could be possible.
So going back to Gonzaga there, when you said about, is this the year? Remember Adam Morrison?
Yeah, former Laker, right?
No, Charlotte Butler. Yeah, but he was drafted by the Bobcats.
Yeah, I remember him on the ground. Remember that?
Crying, right? Because he was so upset, right? And they were undefeated that season too, I think.
That's right.
They were, again, it's just year after year, you get the same sort of scenario. Kevin Pangos, the Canadian guy, they were dominant then too, and they were just they couldn't get over the hump. And I don't know if this year is going to be the same thing. I mean, like you said, we'll get into that later in terms of our Final Four, but we'll see.
I can't believe we just made an Adam Morrison shutout. Wow.
Right, exactly.
I forgot about that.
Right, exactly.
Like every time that name popped, like not every time, but it's been a long time. I just literally remember this. It's Heartbreak City, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You feel bad for these kids, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to remember, some of these guys are seniors, won't be able to, make another run in the tournament.
That's right. Yeah.
And some of them won't make the NBA or won't play overseas or the G League or whatever it is, and they got to go find careers and move on with life. You know what I mean? So, but moving on, we'll start talking about the brackets now. We got the West bracket, right? The West bracket has got Gonzaga, top teams out of the West bracket. You got Gonzaga as the 1 seed, you got Iowa as the number 2 seed, and you got Kansas as your number 3 seed, right? So it's going to be it's a tough bracket, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of really good teams in this bracket that could win. But we'll start, obviously, I mean, like you said, we already talked about the Gonzaga. Gonzaga, I think you have them going to the Elite Eight at least, right? I think that's right, at least right now. But talking about upsets in this one, I think this bracket could produce a couple upsets, in my opinion. I think there's
Give it to me.
Right? I think there's 2 teams, in my opinion, that could produce an upset. Will they do it? I don't know. But I've got UC Santa Barbara.
Hold on. And by the way, we didn't talk about this before, so okay.
Exactly. UC Santa Barbara over Creighton. Right? I like Creighton. I think they're a really good team. But I think UC Santa Barbara's coming in hot. I think they might be able to knock them up. Right? They are coming in hot. I think they have a chance to make it. And then Ohio. Right? Ohio West. Yeah, Ohio over Virginia. Virginia was taken out of the tournament, the ACC tournament, because of COVID. They're missing a couple players. A couple players won't make it until probably the second or third round, which, I mean, at the end of the day, they might not even make it past the first round, right? But Ohio's got Jason Preston, right? Coming out of high school, he wasn't a top-ranked player or anything like that, but this season he's having an outstanding year, 16.6 points per game, 7 assists per game, to go along with almost 7 rebounds per game as well, right? And they're playing well coming into the tournament as well. So I think that's a team, that's the upset that I'm going for in this bracket. I'm saying Ohio's going to knock off Virginia.
I'm going to be boring, and unfortunately, I was hoping that you would pick something different, because the 2 that I had was Ohio West and USC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And listen, these teams are solid. This is the one time that forget the rankings, right? As they're ranked in the brackets. This is a potential. I honestly, I don't have them going that far, but I honestly see this can go either way. And if they do, those 2 specific teams, especially Ohio, by the way, I think that a lot of people are going to get their lighters out and start burning their brackets.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Ohio's won 9 of their last 10 games, and they
coming in hot, man.
Right, and
they peaked at the right time.
Right, and not even just that, they had COVID issues in between, right? So, like, though that 9 out of the 10 winning streak there, they had that 9 out of 10 streak was broken down into a couple different spurts, because they had to stop because of COVID, stop because of COVID again, you know what I mean, and then start again. But I think that they have a really talented team, and like I said, I think Virginia, unfortunately, COVID issues are going to play a factor. And you're talking about Creighton, you got McDermott, who made those racial remarks early, like, a couple during the season, they came to light and stuff like that. and now he's so I think that might play a factor into Creighton's psyche. They got knocked out in the Big East final, and it wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't.
Right, it wasn't even close to Georgetown.
And we talked about this before, and I don't know if you remember this. I was actually quite high going 3 weeks back on Creighton.
Yeah.
And that has sort of turned the tide, the Creighton Jays, if you guys are following along. But wow, yeah, you're right. This is one of those that I actually had to modify my bracket. I'll just leave it at that, based on the last round here going into this tournament.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are some of the players to what bracket busters do you see in terms of, other than obviously Ohio and UC Santa Barbara, what other teams do you see that can make a long run in this tournament other than obviously Gonzaga, Iowa, Kansas?
Long run it's relative to depending on what your expectations are. So I'm going to go over to the South bracket, and I'm going to take Winthrop. I think that there's a potential there that Winthrop could get at least into first of all, I think they're going to get to the Sweet 16. I am actually that high on them, believe it or not. I don't think they get past that. But I mean, once you have the number, and yes, they are a number 12 seed, by the way. I get it, right? So I cheated a little bit there, right? Going with the usual upset or whatnot. But I like their chances, man. They're going to face Villanova, who's, it is what it is. I'm not sold on Nova, right? Sorry, Kyle Lowry, right? But I think Winthrop has a chance, man. I have them circled in the Sweet 16. Elite 8 will make me look like a genius. So go Winthrop. As far as the Midwest bracket, to be honest with you, I think it's pretty even. I really do. I mean, if you're really going to pick an upset there, I mean, you could technically pick Syracuse. I think Syracuse has been a little bit up and down, inconsistent, sort of like my Tar Heels, by the way. And notice I didn't even touch them, and I'm wearing the damn shirt. So I'm going with my brain here, not my heart. I think the Q can make a decent run, well coached, Jim Boeheim and whatnot. So we'll see what happens, man.
So going back to UNC, just before we get it, I know that they're your favorite team, but
I can talk about them if you want. That's not a problem.
Do you see them getting past Georgia Tech?
Are you asking my brain or my heart?
Both ways.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I do too. I think I like Georgia Tech. I like Alvarado. I like the team. I like the makeup of that team and the way they played. We saw them win. Sorry, I don't even know why I'm going Georgia Tech. They're playing Wisconsin.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, right? And I agree with you as well. So
right.
I don't even know what we're
totally
drinking.
Yes, they're going against Wisconsin.
Number 9 seed. You're right.
But right, I have them going past Wisconsin. I like Wisconsin too, but I think they struggled down the stretch, and UNC played well down the stretch, especially in the tournament, right? So
now, in fairness, UNC has been up and down. In their wins, they have been dominant. In their losses, they've been just atrocious.
Yeah.
So the UNC season has been really Jekyll and Hyde. The one thing about my Tar Heels, I'm going to say my Tar Heels, I don't care, right? I can say that, is they're big. If you cannot stop them inside, they're going to destroy you. And we saw that in the ACC tournament and the last one before they got knocked out. At one point, they were doing, they were up like 23 rebounds. It wasn't even close. It was 74% of the rebounds came off second shot. Like, it was something just out of this world. I think it was they almost tied the record. So there's a chance, man. And they're coached well. Obviously, Roy Williams is a phenomenal coach, one of the best of all time. Yeah. And coaching does matter, right? Especially with these kids. Take it easy, coach. I know your blood pressure sometimes rises, and but he's rocking the Jordans, by the way. So I love that. But yeah, no, go Heels. Let's see what it is. But in my honest opinion, the Heels don't get past the Sweet 16.
Yeah,
it hurts to say, but I'm not going to be biased. I'm just going to spit the facts.
Yeah. So moving on, I'm just going to move on to the Midwest bracket here for a second. Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean and the Loyola.
She back?
Right? Yeah, she's back. She's going to be there. She's going to be back there this year.
Please tell the good folks who she is, the sweet old lady.
Yeah, she was the old lady that was there the last tournament that they made a run to, I think the Elite Eight or Final Four, whatever it was.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah,
right?
2 years ago.
Obviously 2 years ago.
Right. And this season she hasn't been, I don't believe she's been to as many games, obviously, because of COVID and everything going around. But she is going to be at March Madness.
That is amazing. I did not know that.
Right. Yeah, she is going to be there. She's already said it. They've got Georgia Tech. That's where I was getting a little bit confused. Right,
you got Sister Jean in the mind.
Right, exactly. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, so I mean, they're going against Georgia Tech, but the Chicago Ramblers, they're a really good team, I think. But how far do you see them going? Do you see them making as big of a run as they did before, knowing that who they have to play in the next round if they do get through Georgia Tech?
I know where you're going with that, by the way.
Right.
I love the setup there. Believe it or not, I'm looking at my bracket right as we speak, and I actually have Loyola and Sister's team beating Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
To play who in the next round.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it yet.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it yet. Yeah. I honestly think that's a win. I'm actually banking on it.
Yeah, they've had a good season this year. Like it's not been right. It's not been a bad season. They were, I believe they were an AP top 25 team this season.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
Right. So they've made a good run. And I think I have the same thing. I have them beating off Georgia Tech. Like I said, I like Jose Alvarado and the Georgia Tech team, but I think Loyola Chicago wins this one.
Oh, I can't wait. I didn't know that. Thanks for the surprise. I didn't know the sister was there.
Yeah, Sister Jean's going to be there.
Sister Jean. Shout out to
Sister Jean.
Maybe we can get her on the podcast, like between games.
Yeah, maybe. You never know, right? You never know, right?
Shut her out on Instagram. She's probably on that shit.
Right? Let me go find her. Sister Jean at Sister Jean on Instagram, right? Or on Twitter, and then you just see her writing a whole bunch of stuff.
That would be a blessing.
Right? Right? A whole bunch of stuff on Twitter. About the refs and stuff. You just see her on Twitter, just right.
She's cussing everybody out,
blasting the refs. That would be pretty funny.
She's Katie's burner,
right?
That's what she is.
There you go. Now we figured it out. We've gotten to the mystery of the KD burner situation. You know what I mean? We know who's running it now. We'll stay in the Midwest.
Yes.
There's a guy by the name of Cade Cunningham with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, right? Projected first overall pick in the NBA draft.
That's what this means. Number one.
Right? Number one. I mean, the guy is uber talented. Like he's got, I think in terms of most NBA ready players to come into the draft this season, I think he's got to be up there. I've seen him go against a couple teams in the tournament there, and he was just bodying guys, getting to the hoop, taking the contact, putting in the basket, doing laying up, getting to the free throw line.
He's a complete player.
Right? He's a complete player, and he does it on both ends of the floor too, right? Yeah. So, he's a National Player of the Year candidate. I don't think he'll win it, but he's definitely got the talent to be the first overall pick, and I don't think anybody's going to touch him as the number one overall pick, right? We've got another guy over in the West Division, West region, I should say, in USC, Evan Mobley, right? Another talented star, going to go in the top 3 picks. I think he's a big man. He blocks. He can rebound. He can score. He's a physical presence down in the block. So he's going to be hard to beat. And that's why I have USC making a deep run in the West region there, right? I think I have them making it basically to the Elite Eight. I think that's what I have them at. But right, we'll get. You
don't want to fact check that, or you want to save that for later? No, it's okay. Save it for later.
Right. I'll save it for later. But I'm pretty sure that's where I have them. I think they're a really good team. I think they have a lot of depth, a lot of talent, led by Evan Mobley, obviously, right?
Right. I'm looking forward, and I know that you mentioned Cade Cunningham, and there's the obvious ones. Cade Cunningham and Luka Garza, I think that are the obvious ones, right? And then we mentioned, I believe we did in the beginning there, the 2 kids out of Gonzaga, Kispert and Suggs. I mean, between those 4 guys, that's must-watch TV. Jared Butler out of Baylor. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think these top 5 players are all pretty much NBA players, not NBA ready players. Now, Cade Cunningham has separated himself from the rest of the pack, in my opinion. Yeah. Like there is no doubt, unless something ridiculous happens, he should be the number one pick.
Yeah.
Not agree, right?
No, I do agree. I mean, I think Luka Garza, great player, great college player, but he's not going to be a top lottery pick. He probably won't be drafted until the second round, in all honesty.
Right.
He's not a good NBA defender. He's just a little bit slower. He's good offensively. He's good for the college basketball game. He will, like I said, he likely will be National Player of the Year. And
that's such a, sorry to interrupt, but that's such a big deal when it comes to college basketball versus NBA, because there's a big difference between being a stud in NCAA and being a stud in the NBA. The speed is different. Like reading your defense is different. It's completely different. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we've seen this time and time again where players are just complete monsters in the NCAA, and it doesn't necessarily translate to the NBA. So when people are watching and hearing these names like Cade Cunningham, Luka Garza, I'm not sure I mentioned yet the kid from Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu.
Ayo Dosunmu, yeah.
Dosunmu, right? These are all great players, but some of these guys are not going to necessarily be lottery picks, right? Like that's why I said Cade has separated himself from the rest of the pack. And if you have a chance to watch Oklahoma State, please watch this guy, because he is literally NBA ready. But everything's up for grabs here. And it sort of reminds me of, Luka Garza but when you said not NBA ready, it's like, or sometimes it doesn't translate to the NBA. Do you remember Tyler Hansbrough in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Right? Now, not the same player, not at all. But Tyler Hansbrough was the man in UNC.
Yeah.
He was an average player at best in the NBA. He was actually a former Raptor, if people remember that, right? Psycho T, right? But this guy broke all kinds of records with North Carolina. He was dominant, but it doesn't sometimes translate to the NBA as far as stardom. And there's some guys that you just hit, they can't miss prospects, but we don't have time to go into that, right? But
right, exactly. And I mean, we've seen it with a lot of guys. You look at BYU, Jimmer Fredette. Right, Jimmer Fredette, another guy, tore it up at BYU.
Tore it up. Was the man.
Right, drafted. I think he was a lottery pick in the NBA draft. Never panned out, and he's gone to China and he's put up 76 points here and 73 points there. He's playing good, but he just doesn't translate to the NBA game, because the NBA game is a physical game.
Yep.
We talk about it being soft, we talk about all that stuff, but it's a physical game, and guys that aren't quick enough to play defense, aren't quick enough to with the switching, aren't quick enough for that, they're going to get exposed, right? And
yep,
Luka Garza hasn't.
That's the word,
right? Luka Garza hasn't been exposed in the NCAA because it's a lot different, right? They work through them. There's different sort of tactics in terms of 2-3 zones, 3-2 zones, right? There's a lot of different defensive schemes that get thrown out that Luka Garza could take advantage of. Where in the NBA, a lot of it is man-on-man defense, right? You're playing man-on-man, unless you're playing the Toronto Raptors in your box on one, right? But
I knew you were going to go there. I knew it.
But no, so it doesn't just translate to the NBA level. So it's going to be tough for him to be a top pick.
But nonetheless, talented kid. So
yeah,
don't get it twisted. Talented kid.
The East Division, I think, again, another one, I think, compared to what you had over in the Midwest, I think it's kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of even across the board. I do have one upset. Yeah, I have, right, the Mr. Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas. Right, I have them knocking off the Colorado Buffaloes. And that's no slight to Colorado, because Colorado was a really good team, a really good squad, had a really good team this season, played some good basketball. But I think, like you said before, and you've mentioned it time and time again, when the tournament comes, it's peaking at the right time.
Correct.
Right, and Georgetown's peaked at the right time. They won four games in 4 nights, right, to win the Big East title. Right, they beat Marquette, they beat Villanova, they beat Seton Hall, and they beat the Creighton Blue Jays, right? And they smoked the Creighton Blue Jays. It wasn't even close.
Damn Jays.
Right? And that's what got them into the tournament. They were the last team into the tournament in terms of NCAA, in terms of the Big East tournament, but they ended up pulling out the victory and winning. And I think they're peaking at the right time. And I think they could definitely knock off Colorado.
First of all, let's give credit to, and this hurts to say as a longtime Bulls fan growing up, but credit where credit is due to Patrick Ewing. right? He's done a phenomenal job with that team, Georgetown, I'm speaking of, being the first, coach player to win their conference tournament, number one. Number two, I went back old school, and believe it or not, I'm just going to say it. I have the Georgetown Hoyas in the Sweet 16 in a collision course with the Michigan Wolverines.
So you have them knocking off either Florida State, I'm assuming.
Funny you say that. I have Florida State versus Georgetown. I have Georgetown beating Florida State, and I have Michigan versus Georgetown, and that's where the fun ends. Michigan beating Georgetown. But now I'm probably going to be wrong, which usually is the case. But shout out New York Knicks. My apologies. But no, Georgetown's. You hit it right on the nail. Georgetown's peaked at the right time. They're coached well. They peaked at the right time. And I think they're just going to ride the momentum. They are the team that's playing with house money. What's there to lose? If you think about it, right?
Exactly. They got nothing to lose. They weren't expected to be in the tournament. They're in the tournament,
Yeah.
and they have a shot of upsetting one of the top teams in the nation, right, in Colorado. So, but some players to watch, I would have to say, in this East Division. I'm going to list off a few players. You got Cameron Thomas from the LSU Tigers.
Okay.
Solid player, right? You got James Bouknight from UConn. He's been injured. He's missed a couple games, but from what I've heard, all reports say he's going to start on Friday. He'll be playing on Friday, right? And then you have Herbert Jones from the Alabama Crimson Tide.
You just wanted to say Herbert.
No. He's a talented player. I was watching him in the tournament, the SEC tournament there, and he dominated out there. He's
actually ranked in the top 12 prospects as far as players to watch.
Yeah.
And I believe it was ESPN. They had him 12 or 13. So he's no joke.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Hunter Dickinson from Michigan, right? Yep. National Player of the Year candidate. And then obviously, a little bit of Canadian content. He's injured right now. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the SEC tournament, missed the last 2 games. But Joshua by his government name. Yeah, Joshua Primo by his government name. But yeah, he went down with a knee injury.
From Alabama,
right? From all reports, he likely won't be able to play in the first round game. He's still not jogging at the
this
moment.
Point, he's not. It's zero chance.
Right. So he's definitely
unfortunate.
Right. Exactly. He was not. It's unfortunate. Yeah. He was a guy who came off the bench, but he was a spark plug off the bench for a freshman, right? He played well for a really good team, and he complemented that team well. So it's a big piece that they're going to be missing.
And a good old Canadian talent, right? So we got to support our Canucks.
Exactly, a Toronto boy, right?
Yeah.
So you got to support the Canucks. There's a ton of Canucks.
Ton
of Canucks. Talking about Canadians, we can go back to just jump back to the West Division here. We got Oregon, the number 7 ranked Oregon Ducks versus VCU, right? The Oregon Ducks have a guy by the name of, if I go back to it,
Chris
Duarte, right, from Montreal, Canadian there, and they've got I think they have another Canadian as well who's also playing a really good as well. Eugene
Aurier,
forward. Oh, yeah, 16.7 points per game, and then you got Chris.
That's really good,
right? Chris Duarte is putting up the same amount of points, right? So you're talking about 2 players that are key players on an Oregon Ducks team that might make a run in this tournament, right? They're a strong team. They're a good team. They play both ends of the floor. Defense sometimes lets them down a little bit, but they're good. They're good, solid players, and we've said it before in terms of NCAA basketball and Canadian basketball, right? There's a lot of Canadian talent coming up through the NCAA ranks, right? A ton of players coming up through the NCAA ranks.
On both sides, let's not get it twisted. Shout out to the women, because there's a lot of Canadian talent both on the men's division and the women's division.
Yeah.
Like there's, I don't know, and we'll probably get into that in a bit, but 25, 30 Canadians representing the women's division in March Madness. And we have probably, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, about 20 Canadians as well. On the men's side, about 10 or so that are, separate themselves from the rest. But I mean, there's a significant amount of Canadians representing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, another Canadian player that on Georgetown, we just talked about them. Javon Blair from
Javon
Brampton.
Blair, my guy.
Right? Javon
Guard.
Blair, guard from Brampton, almost 16 points a game, 4 assists per game, 4 rebounds per game. So he's been a consistent player all season for the Hoyas.
Yep.
And he could prove to be a key piece for them if they want to make a run, like you said, to the Sweet 16, like you have them, right? He'll be a key piece in their efforts to get there.
Right. And then you have other guys like the center from Purdue, Zach Edley, I believe his name is.
Zach Edey, yeah.
Edey, right? This guy, first of all, this guy's a monster. I believe he goes about 7'3", 7'4",
yeah, he's massive.
275 pounds. Of just space eater. Now, he is not exactly going to fill the basket with the stat sheets, but he's a solid guy to watch for Purdue. So keep your eye on that kid. I think he's out of Calgary or Edmonton or whatnot. Or was he from Toronto? Is he a Toronto kid?
Toronto. Zach Edey's from Toronto.
Okay, my bad.
He's from Toronto, but he's also a freshman too, right? So
I was thinking of the kid from Loyola. He's from Edmonton.
Yes. He's from Edmonton, yeah. But yeah, there's a ton of talent coming in this. You've got on Oklahoma State Cowboys. You got Matthew Alexander Moncrief out there as well, right? So there's a ton of Canadian
kid out of Vaughan, by the way. He's out of Vaughan.
Exactly. There's a ton of Canadian talent coming into this tournament. And if you're a Canadian fan, you watch NCAA basketball. These are some guys you have to keep your eye out for because in the future, they'll be representing Canada, whether it's on the national stage or in the Olympics or whatever it is, they'll be there.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to say I was watching I believe it was the Georgetown game 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. I'm not too sure. I don't remember. And Javon Blair, who plays for Georgetown, good Canadian kid. And I forget who they're playing. And the broadcast team said, I didn't know that they had Canadians playing basketball up in Canada. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. He said, and I quote, I thought they only played hockey, not hockey, hockey. So there's still a little bit of ignorance down south about Canadian talent in basketball. But I thought that was funny. Disturbing. I was actually angry at that time because I don't think that he's checked out the Canadians, not only on the NCAA side, but the professional side as far as the NBA. Ever hear of Jamal Murray? Ever hear of Steve Nash?
Exactly. Like I was just about to say.
Tristan Thompson.
Right. Have you never heard of the back-to-back MVP, Steve Nash? Like he won.
Are you new?
Right. Exactly. It's not like, I mean, yeah, obviously.
Sorry, I had to get that in there because that was bothering me.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, hopefully he was joking about that because at the end of the day.
Nah, don't joke. That ain't funny, dude.
Right. There's no questioning that the talent and there's a lot of talent coming in to the NBA of Canadian players, right? Like that. There's no questioning that. It's becoming we're becoming a pipeline in a sense, right?
Absolutely
going through the NCAA and they're coming into the NBA and they're becoming key players on their teams, right? You got Dylan Brooks in Memphis, you got Jamal Murray, you got Andrew Wiggins, you've got
Alexander,
right? You got Chris Boucher in Toronto,
Alexander,
right? Got Shai in Thing, and he's becoming he's a star player for the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? So to sit there and say we didn't know there was Canadian talent, I mean that's obviously you're either the rock you're living under, you better lift it off you because it's getting a little too heavy, and you've been under there for too long.
Whoa, okay.
Right? Or
easy,
you're just,
easy.
you're just, or you're joking around, and hopefully it was just a joke. That's what he was doing. Right?
I'm sure he'll be welcome here.
So, I mean, maybe you know what? We'll just get into what are some sleepers you have for this year?
Sleepers? I mean, listen, if you want to consider a sleeper because you can pick double-digit ranked team, I'm going to be a little biased. I think that Carolina can make a run if they get their act together. I think that's a sleeper pick. They're not a sexy pick. They're a sexy pick in the sense of who they are, right? North Carolina, everybody knows who they are. And yes, I am a little bit biased there. And I'm going to go back to the East, man. I'm at Georgetown. Why not? If not, like, why not? They have literally nothing to lose. I'm going to stick to what I said before. So I'm going bias on one side of the bracket in the South with Carolina making a nice sleeper run, whatever the case that is, what gets them to, I don't know. But Georgetown, Georgetown is a sleeper pick. If you want me to pick another one, perhaps Syracuse. And yes, I'm sticking with the upper echelon teams from the past, right? With the teams that everybody knows. I think they can make also a run as a sleeper team. Why not? I can see that happening.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I have to.
I can give you a 16th seed. I can give you Hartford or against Baylor, and they can. But that's not a sleeper. That's a complete mess of a upset.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the odds of that happening are 1 in a million, right? Like we haven't. I think we've seen what 1/16 seed go down. Hey, it's not something that happens very often. If I'm talking sleepers, obviously we've mentioned it before. UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
But my sleeper for the West region right now would be Ohio. Definitely Ohio. Right. I think I'm going to have them going to the Sweet 16 right now. Right. Another team in the West, Oregon. Right. Like we said, we mentioned those Canadian connections. Right. Yep. You've got Duarte and you got Eugene out there. So there's a ton of talent out on that one. East region, I've got the Bonnies, the St. Bonaventure. Right. I got St. Bonaventure. Right. You got Georgetown. Michigan State, obviously, we've seen them. They're playing tonight against UCLA. If they get into the tournament, I think they could possibly do some damage. They've got 3 top 25 wins in the last 3 weeks prior to going into the tournament, right, over Ohio State, Illinois, and Michigan. So they're a good team going in. I also have in the South region, I have Winthrop, and I have your UNC Tar Heels as a sleeper team. Definitely think they're a sleeper team. And in the Midwest, I've got Oregon State and I got San Diego State as sleeper teams out west.
So you did it. You took the 12th seed, basically.
Yeah. No,
why not? Right.
Of course, right. You got to go with what I think could make a run. And I look at the teams and I look at the Winthrop is a fast-paced team. They've lost one game, right? Lost one game all season. Yes. Everybody's going to say, well, they haven't played top opponents, right? You know what I mean? But you play who you play.
Yeah.
You win. You play who you play, and you win games, right? You get yourself in the tournament, and like you said, it's one and done. Anything can happen. We've seen it before, right? Anything could happen.
Bad days, and then that's it. There's no, we'll figure it out in game 2. This is it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is it.
Bad shooting days are bad shooting days. You can't get them back. If you're not shooting the ball, see ya.
And with these kids, if anybody has watched in previous years, is top seeds that get behind and they have not. And I am a massive proponent of this. You have to go through some adversity during the season in order to understand what adversity is in the tournament. And this is why sometimes I'm a little bit concerned about these teams like Gonzaga, who basically sometimes just cruise through the season and they have not been punched in the mouth yet, right? They're not like, and again, I'm not discounting what Gonzaga is because they're a solid team. They're number 1 for the reason. But I think that adversity is an underrated factor in any sporting event, in any tournament. You have to go through some sort of adversity. And that's what a sleeper team does. Sleeper teams have teams that are sort of, we weren't expecting them to do this. They were okay, but they've gone through some shit, right? So they are equipped to handle it. Whereas a team that has cruised through the entire season in the tournament, and then all of a sudden you get to the Sweet 16 and you're down by 12 with 5 minutes left. How do you recover? Because you're used to playing ahead. Now you're playing behind. And these are kids. These are not, there's no Kevin Durant coming out of nowhere. There's no, this is it, right? And in one and done situation, under pressure, when you haven't been there before, that's something to be said. So keep an eye on that.
And going back to just one more upset that I forgot to mention, I think Michigan State over BYU. If Michigan State does get past UCLA, you talk about getting punched in the face. BYU hasn't been punched in the face at all this season. Yeah, they played Gonzaga, but they played them 3 times and they lost all 3 times to Gonzaga. They haven't had a win against a top 25 opponent, whereas Michigan State played in a Big Ten, a tough Big Ten. You know what I mean? And they picked up wins, like I said, over Illinois, the Ohio State University.
The
Ohio State University, right? Yeah. I feel like Key and Peele on that. Have you ever seen that video with Key and Peele?
Yes.
Introducing himself in the NFL, right? The Ohio State University, right? And then they also picked up a win against arch rival Michigan. Yeah, they lost one and then they won one, right? They split it. And that's winning against top 25 opponents is huge because it raises your level of confidence, your psyche. And again, they're coached by one of the best coaches in the world too in NCAA basketball, and Tom Izzo.
For
right?
Shizzle.
Right, exactly. So I think they could be another team that could knock off, could be an upset team in a sense, right?
Right. No, I agree. I agree with that. I like to disagree with you from time to time, but I can't right now. It sucks.
Right, exactly. It does. I mean, but at the end of the day, right, we're picking our brackets based on what we think, right? And if we agree, we agree. What are we going to do, right? But
yeah, exactly. We're not First Take where we're going to make up arguments just because.
Right? I'm not Max, you're not Steven, right? So who cares?
Blasphemy.
Right, exactly. Or as he said about, what did he say about Kwame Brown back in the day? I can't even remember now.
Oh.
Right, you remember seeing that video when they talked about Kwame and they traded him and he's like, he's a bona fide scrub.
Yes.
Right? He's got no hands, nothing, right? He's got huge hands and, oh, man, he was killing me. But moving on to top players. Obviously, we've discussed, like, players to watch, all that stuff. But who are your top 5 players in this tournament?
Top 5 to me is easy. Cade Cunningham, number 1. Not even close. So he almost gets his own category. Jared Butler, the 2 guys from Gonzaga. I have Kispert and Suggs. And then I have Ayu, help me pronounce his last name.
Ayo
Dosunmu from the Fighting Illini. Those are my top 5 players to watch. Yeah,
so my top 5 players, I have Cade Cunningham, obviously. You know, you're talking about electric player, could do it on both ends of the floor, could score the basket. I've got Ayo Dosunmu, right? Another talented player. We all saw his pictures like Kobe Bryant after they won the tournament. You know what I mean?
I love that, by the way.
Right? Me too.
When you sent that to me the other day, it was like, wow, that is amazing.
And it was funny. They posted pictures up the other day of him, right? Wearing the black mask. And we've seen other players do the same thing. And, you know, those players' names, I think their names were LeBron James.
Who?
LeBron James and Kobe Bryant.
Pretty good players.
Right? Pretty good players, right? And then he goes and takes pictures like that where it looks like he's definitely taking pictures of the way Kobe Bryant did. But he's my second. And then I have Evan Mobley from USC as my third.
Your boy. Yeah.
Right? Corey Kispert from Gonzaga as my number 4, and then Jalen Suggs as my number 5.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a couple other guys that I'm looking at too that I like as well. Houston's got Quentin Grimes. There's Drew Tim from Gonzaga as well. Luka Garza from Iowa, but we know what he can do, right? So, those are my top 5.
Good. That's a decent top 5, man. That is a decent top 5. So
right, and then I forgot. I didn't even include Jared Butler. Like, jeez,
I know.
Right? But Jared Butler, he would have to be a close 5th for me. We've been talking about it. We've been delaying it. We've been waiting on it. We said, you know what? Let's not say it till we get to the end. Let's not say it, right?
But that's what we do. Like, you got to keep the people wanting.
Exactly. You
got to keep them on your toes.
Exactly.
You don't say the best thing first. Say the best thing last.
Right, exactly. Save the best for last, like they say,
Absolutely.
Right? Final 4 predictions.
Yes.
I want to know who you got in your Final 4. And then I want to know who you have in the national championship game, and then who you have winning. Okay,
so just so you know, for the record, I have 2 brackets. One that is my logical brain bracket, and one is my we'll see what happens bracket. Believe it or not, they sort of mirror each other. So I don't know what that means, but I'm going to give you my Final 4 and then my champion. So I have Gonzaga coming out of the West, Michigan coming out of the East. I have Ohio State coming out of the South, and I have the Fighting Illini. I'm surprised you shouldn't be surprised by this pick out of the Midwest. With my final 2 being Gonzaga against Illinois in your national champion, Illinois.
Jeez, it's a good one. I mean, that's 3.
Book it.
So 3 number 1 seeds, 1 number 2 seed, right?
Yeah.
Basically,
eventually,
right?
Everybody sort of just falls off, but that's what I have.
right? So my Final Four predictions, it's going to be different, a little bit different.
And let's see. Can you put these up after so that people can say who's got the better one?
Yeah.
We'll get a vote going. That's right.
Exactly. For my Final Four, I got coming out of the West. I got the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Right. I got them coming out of the West. In the East, I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Roll Tide.
Right. Roll Tide. They've been a solid team. I have Michigan getting knocked out in the Elite Eight.
Oh,
right. I have them getting knocked out. Actually, sorry, I should say the Sweet 16.
Okay.
Right. I think Florida State's going to knock them out. The Seminoles have been good this season. So I have Bama over Florida State in the Eastern bracket. Over in the South, I have the Ohio State University over the Ohio State University over Baylor in the South one, and with Ohio State coming out. And then in the Midwest, I got Illinois over Houston, the Houston Cougars.
Oh, we have a problem.
Right. And then I have in the Final Four, I have Gonzaga over Bama. Right. I'd love to pick Bama. I think that, you know what, at the end of the day, I think Herbert Jones and Bama could knock off Gonzaga. That could be where my bracket breaks down. But let's be real, my bracket's going to break down probably in the first night. But
by 12:45 tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. 12:45, it's over, basically.
It's over.
Right? And then I have Illinois over Ohio State, and then I have your national champions.
No. The Ohio State.
Yeah, sorry, the Ohio State, right? And then I have your national champions, Iowa and the Illinois Fighting Illini. And I have to. I just think they're the deepest team in this tournament. I think they have so much talent.
They do.
Right? They have so much talent on this squad. Right?
And the funny part is that we've spent a lot of time talking about Zaga. A lot of time. And then both of us pick Illinois.
Right, exactly.
How about that?
I think, to be honest with you, like I said, I think Gonzaga could get knocked out earlier than that. I just think that there's I don't know, it's weird. With the way they play, they're just a weird team that anything could happen, and a choke could happen, so to speak, right?
Right. And it's funny, sorry, I just want to add before we leave. In my other random bracket, I actually have Gonzaga beating Bama in the Final Four and the Ohio State losing to Illinois. And I have Gonzaga, Illinois in the final, and I had Gonzaga winning. So I flipped it the other way. They're both going to burn. It's probably going to be Creighton against freaking Colgate, and then we're all going to look like jackasses.
Right, exactly. You're right. You know what I mean?
Colgate.
Yeah, it's a crazy little it's a crazy little thing that anything could happen in this tournament. We said it before, anything could happen in this tournament, and that's why they call it March Madness for a reason, right? Right.
To quote Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. I actually sounded like Oprah there. My bad.
But no, you're right. Absolutely, anything is possible in
Yes.
this tournament. Anything, we've saw it. Sister Jean and the Loyola Chicago Ramblers a few years ago, right? Making a deep run to the Elite Eight. There,
Divine intervention.
Right? Exactly. There's been a ton of teams. Good thing Duke's not here because they can't be a number 1 seed and get knocked out as a 16th seed.
You know what? We almost listen. Don't get me started. Why you waited until the last possible minute to bring up?
Exactly. You gotta.
I don't miss y'all. It's an
Right?
unfortunate way that you didn't get in or got the chance to participate, but I don't miss you. Right. Bye.
Right, but I guess like we've said it before. Look for our brackets on Instagram. Follow at the B-Ball Lab. Right, you follow us on at the B-Ball Lab. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff, especially during March Madness. We're going to be, I don't know, sort of screwing up your timeline, I guess, with just a whole bunch of different NCAA
Wake
stuff.
you up at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right. Well, I don't know about that.
That's the time of the year that I don't sleep. So I bank my sleep all the way into March 19 or so, whatever it is. And then after that, because, in the first 2 rounds, I'm going to be up until like 2 a.m.
Well, yeah, man, like it's crazy. Like I was looking at it, and then, obviously we didn't really get a chance to mention it in terms of it, but women's, that starts on Sunday.
Oh, don't worry. We'll talk about that. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah. We're going to talk about that on the next podcast for sure. But that one starts on Sunday, right? There's so much talent over there as well. So you've got men's on what? I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday for the first two rounds. Then you got the women's are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So there's ton of college basketball coming down the pipeline right now, right? You got the NIT tournament going on as well.
Yep.
Right. But like we said, look for our brackets, our Final Four predictions, I should say. Maybe not our full brackets.
The winning brackets,
right?
Somehow, even though we have the two finalists winning, whatever. But
right, exactly. Yeah, we have the same final two. So I mean,
my bracket's not locked in, so I may change a couple of things.
Exactly. Now that you know mine, right?
No, not because of that. No.
But yeah, follow us on our Twitter, follow us on our Instagram at the B-Ball Lab. You could find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, on Apple, right? And if you're watching this on YouTube, just look down below. You'll see a little subscribe button down there, a little bell notification, right? All you got to do is just click it.
Click the son bitch.
Right? Click. Just click it. You know what I mean? And
shout out Steve Austin.
Right? Just click it. Well, it was 316 day the other day, right? Can I get a hell yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? See? You know what I mean? So I guess we'll end it off on that note, right?
Hell yeah.
Right? Thanks for listening to another episode of the Basketball Lab podcast. Thanks for joining us this week on the Basketball Lab podcast. Make sure to follow us on our social media. You could follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the B-Ball Lab. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Basketball Lab podcast, and you could also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music.